I'm Tamika D. Mallory.
And it's your boy Mysonne, the General.
We are your host of TMI.
Tamika and Mysonne's information, truth, motivation, and inspiration.
New name, new energy, but
same old us.
What's going on, my son Lennon?
How are you doing, Tamika Mallory?
I'm doing good. Drum roll, drum roll. I'm just laughing because I'm so tired.
So tired. Huh?
That it's just trying to hold it together. Well, you know, the season has begun where it's time to travel around this country, and we just ain't got shit to work with. Like, honestly, like, it's really, really hard because, well, and I think that what we do have, and the only thing we have, is the issues that matter to our communities. Like, we really have to be focused on local people, local issues, and then how those local issues play into the larger narrative in terms of what's happening in our communities. Because every which way we turn, there are, I mean, these folks that we fight against every day are extremely strategic. And so every city around this country, there's some type of dynamic where they have begun to make shifts in the politics on the ground, whether it be inserting, there's a new, it's not new in terms of it's never happened before, but there's a reignited effort to bring Black people who don't align with our issues and put them in position in communities. And so what we're dealing with now is combating the Daniel Cameron effect. That is the Attorney General, was the Attorney General of Kentucky, who tried to become governor, a Black man, and we had to sit him down. And so we have, you know, this is a situation where all around the nation, we're seeing these types of Black people popping up. And it's a trying time because at the same time, trying to sell people that we still can do this. Like, we still can continue to fight. We don't need to give up. That there is, in fact, so much possibility in us, like, staying together and staying on the wall and continuing to do the work. It's really hard right now. People are not interested.
Yeah, because they're jaded.
Not people. Let me not say people. It's just some people. There's a lot of people who are very interested, but there are some who, and it's the ones that
it's people that we're in direct contact with.
Yeah.
The people that we've seen that have really put blood, sweat, and tears into trying to fight for our people, right? And they just, sometimes you just get deflated. You know, you see certain things and you feel like you're making strides and you feel like you're going forward. And then there are certain things that just take wind out of your sails. And, you know, and I say that all the time. I see what happened to a lot of our elders and our ancestors that fought and just got tired. You know, there were some of them that made history and continued. You know, I was watching Harry Belafonte's, one of the movies that they put out on Following Harry, and just looking what he went through in different generations, right? Like, I watched him as a young man fighting with Dr. King, right? And he was there and he was funding the movement. He was right with him. And then Dr. King told him, I fear that, you know, I've integrated our people into a burning building. Hearing Dr. King say that, right? And then he's still fighting. He was confused, like, what do you mean? And then as he started to continue, he started to see that, right? And I seen him having conversations with you. I see them having conversation with the Dream Defenders. I see them having conversations with March for Our Lives, like different generations of freedom fighters, and him explaining to you what is happening. Like, this moment is for now. What are you going to do? And each one of them, like, we're going to fight. And then you just see another, and him constantly explaining to you that they're trying to dismantle this. They're going to do everything to dismantle this. And then you see it play out in each one of those movements. They're going to attack you. They're going to do these things.
Absolutely.
And then watching it continue to play out. So when you see that, and that man died, right, still trying to give that knowledge and still trying to fight for those things, but you could tell that there was this feeling of, are we actually gonna see freedom? Like, is it like
Mm-hmm.
we still
Can
gonna
it ever
fight?
happen?
I'm gonna fight, and I'm gonna give you this energy, and I'm gonna talk. But you've seen the vigor, right? That you've seen the vigor. Like now, it was just a elder who was knowledgeable, just giving it to you, saying, hopefully, you could take this information and do what we haven't been able to do.
Right.
You know, and I understand how that happens, because you just fight so long and you just feel like, you know what I'm saying, you dig in a hole and you don't find the bottom.
Absolutely.
You know, but when you're a fighter, you just keep digging.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we have to spread. But when you're on is this beginning of the summer, at least 3 days, I've been in a loop of canceled flights and delays and 6 hours in this airport and whatever. And I don't know that people understand the tire tracks on your back when you're trying to get this work done. And then when you're talking to people who are like, don't come over here with that, I don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be frustrated, like, man, I traveled, I'm trying to really get us to be to be sold, not on candidates, not even on any of that, but to be sold on our possibility that even you could run, like Killer Mike said at the BET Awards. If you could run, like, how can we use this energy to set it up for you to run? And then you have to deal with people who are so frustrated. You can't even get upset with them, because I understand.
Get it?
I feel that way. So today is one of those days where I'm just like pulling the train along. But tomorrow I'll be back in there doing what I have to do.
I'm with you, man. You know, some days I get that, and you gotta. That's why we got each other, right? That's why we got in this movement. We fight. We feed off each other's energy. Some days you gonna have more energy than I have. Some days I'm gonna have it for you. So today I'm gonna carry it. You know, but you shout out to my black print. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta move this out the way.
You gotta see what it say. You see what it say? Run us our reparations, man. Shout out to them for the shirt. I got one for you.
Got one for me.
Got one for you too. And that's what I feel like. We got to fight for our reparations. We're gonna have to. They're not gonna give us our reparations.
No,
every day is a fight for our reparations, and that's what our people got to understand. We deserve certain things. You know what I'm saying? We were denied certain things, and we built this country on our back with our hands.
Angela Rye says, for free.
For free. So run us our reparations.
I know that's right. So let's see my thought of the day today. Last week, awful debate. And, some people that want to jump to awful debate because Biden, his performance was not at all where it should be. Well, his performance is not where most people would want it to be. But it actually is where it should be for an 80-something-year-old man who has been in public service for a long time, dealing with extreme stress. And also he has a stuttering disability, and therefore he has some, a trifecta of challenges. So no, it's not where people would want it to be, but he's actually not that far off from most 80-year-old people that you put them on the stage and tell them that they need to debate
at 9 o'clock at night.
At 9 o'clock at night. So, and I'm not even making excuses for it. It's not my point. Let me get to it. I'm just saying people want to say that that's the only reason why the debate was so terrible. But I'm also not into listening to somebody who's real quick with lies. So, and by the way, there have been some fact checkers, even President Biden, a few times, some of the things that he said is not 100% accurate. So it's not that one person that the president was this great moral standing and then Trump wasn't. Trump just is a habitual liar, who and a very dangerous individual. And then you have him up against a man who I believe there's some issues that President Biden has, some blind spots that he has, and some areas that he's committed to that I just don't agree with, and could never, ever, ever, ever comfortably say like, oh, I'm for Biden because of some of his decisions and the ways in which his administration has carried out their duties. But in addition to that, I also know he's an older man. So what it basically says to me is the whole shit is a mess. Like, it's a mess. You got lying. You've got a person who needs rest. and relaxation. That's what people at 80 years old, people should be resting from working their entire lives, trying to get up there, and everybody's putting this pressure on you that your responsibility is to save democracy and all of this and that. And yet the democracy that you are engaged or supposed to be engaged with across the seas in the Middle East, you are part of destroying that little piece of whatever slither of democracy those folks may have had. So it's just, all of it is, I can't find super positive things anywhere, right? But here's what I was going to talk about, because then, of course, the first thing that happened, which is also disingenuous, all these newspapers and op-eds came out quickly saying that Joe Biden needs to resign. I mean, he needs to step aside. And I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, I read a few articles. Some of it means just go to the convention with a different candidate as the nominee for president. Or allow the process to take place where there is another candidate can emerge. Some people want him to, that they believe he's in such bad shape at this moment that he should not even be able to he should not be able to continue to be the president, which we know is not going to happen. And also, we know people that work in the White House, people who have audience with President Biden all the time. And they say there's literally nothing wrong with him. And I'm talking about people that's my friends that would tell me, girl, whew, Lord, they've told me other things. But they say there's literally nothing wrong with him. Like, you could sit down and have a conversation with him. But when a person stutters and they're older, and again, the stress of the job, when they are speaking, sometimes they need extra time to process, remember, and then be able to have the conversation. That's just a natural thing that happens to you as you start to get older. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, no, he should not be the nominee. Not now. Now we all the way far down the road. Before, with what he said when he ran the first time, was that he would not run for re-election. And that's what they should have stuck to, because at that time he was a little bit younger. He was an older white man up against an older white man, which probably was a good man. I mean, obviously, because he won. But now he is too much in his senior years, and it is too much of a stress on his whole system to try to stand up there and have the type of debate with a man who is a straight lunatic. Like, you gotta be on your lunatic to talk to the lunatic, for real. And not for nothing. This is my real thought of the day about what I want to say, because I'm not, I want to focus on Black folks, right, and our issues. One, people are talking about third-party candidates. So first of all, the way this system is set up, they have long time ago rigged it to where trying to get a third-party candidate elected at this point, they already know it's damn near impossible, because you have the Democratic convention coming up. You also, and I get it, some people will say, well, I'm going to still vote for them. That's fine. But the third-party candidate, 9 times out of 10, unless we can move an exodus of people, and it ain't just Black people. It's not just Black people. You need people from all races, everybody to come together. And we already divided within the Black community, because you have people who are saying, we don't want Donald Trump so much that we cannot afford to take the shot. Now, I'm with it. I'm with it. If Cornel West was a real shot for us to win, not only would I be behind him, and I'm still willing to listen to somebody sell me on what we could do to get Cornel on the stage at the Democratic convention and figure out how we can support him and move votes in his direction. I'm with it. But I also sit around and talk to our people, and I realize that in conversations with us, we still need a lot of work to get to the point where all of us and then some other folks make that shift. And this was done to us, and it's wrong. It is wrong that we live in America in a place where we cannot look at the 2 top candidates and say, I don't want them. I mean, right? Like, I'm sure we could talk about that later on or another day. But here's the thing, the reason why I know about the challenge that we face as a people. Kamala Harris is the vice president, which means that in the proper world, she would advance because of if the president was incapacitated or decides that he does not want to run again, she would have and is supposed to naturally advance to being at the head of the ticket. Here's the issue. If the Democratic Party and the white folks that's over there and the black and brown people and other people that go along with white folks who are in charge of every damn thing, if they go along with this process of them needing a new candidate, at first those articles was coming out, they weren't even mentioning Kamala as the person. So what they would attempt to do is find some other person, which Gavin Newsom couldn't really necessarily be it because he's from California and so is Kamala, and that never works in any scenario, that there's two people at the top and second on the ticket from the same state, right? But if they go and find some other person, more than likely a white person, to put over Kamala, black people will, a lot of black people, a large majority of black people would lose our minds that you have disrespected a black woman. And again, it would be race. And then, as I have said a million times, when you take race and couple it with sex and sexism, that sexism piece can be even more damning because we already had a black president. So we know almost any kind of man can win, right? Almost any kind of man. But a woman, any race, number one, definitely black, it is very difficult. Do I think that she could have debated Donald Trump and kicked his butt? Absolutely. Do I think that she could run the country and do the thing and really be a strong, powerful voice around this world? Absolutely, I think that. She's educated, she's talented, she has all the things. But do I understand the challenges of a black woman being at the top of the ticket? Of course. And so do they know that within the party, which is why they would attempt, out of sexism also and racism, but ultimately just practicality, they would attempt to put somebody over her. So you know what would happen? The black people would be like, this is disrespectful, and go crazy about how Kamala is being disrespected. But then, if they did put her at the top of the ticket, you know what some of them same black people would say? She's not black enough. Yeah. She was a prosecutor and she put black people in jail. She did this, she did that. She's not enough of this. She don't know how to dance properly. She looked like she never danced before. She's married to a white man. So no matter which way you start trying to go and which way you start shifting, we will find a reason to try to discredit that black woman.
That's right.
Which is why, right, out of ego, they are ill-advised. Some of it is disrespect. Other parts of it is an attempt to preserve the dignity of the current president and also the dignity of the United States. Because when these things happen, it's history. Forever, people will be saying they had to remove or President Biden had to step down or whatever. And out of their ego, and again, some of it being the disrespect for a black woman, some of it being just ill-advised, and they made a bad decision to allow him to run for president again. I believe that makes them feel that they have no choice but to take this man all the way to the end and hope, Hail Mary, that he wins while killing babies in Palestine, while people have serious questions over especially the marketing of what they have been able to accomplish in a time when inflation is killing people. I don't care what they say. They keep saying jobs is at the highest number. I know at least 20 people that have been and continue to search for work. They are struggling. People are homeless. People are hurting. So you got all that happening, and then you got a liar who knows how to market and twist and say crazy things that makes people feel like, well, maybe, and then people get so frustrated about either one of them that they start talking about taking their votes and splitting them and going to another place. It's a hot ass mess. And I don't care if people can get mad at me. They can say whatever they want. But part of why we are here is because when Joe Biden said he would not run for re-election, that's what he should have done. We should have figured this out from 4 years ago when he became president. They should have decided how they were going to make sure that Kamala was able to get to the end and become the nominee with people really behind her. That's what we should have done, because that's who they chose for vice president. And if they weren't going to do it with Kamala, which I support 100% that a black woman be at the head of the ticket, but if they weren't going to do it with Kamala, it should have been somebody else. This should have been the plan since even before he became president, and they did not do that. And now we are in a situation where we're dealing with a man who has the court stacked in his favor to be able to do the most unconscionable criminal bullshit ever. And we sitting up here with another man over here that is in charge, that is not in charge of, that is helping to fund a genocide. It's too much for me.
I said from the beginning, we're not picking an ally. We pick an opponent, right? Who we got to battle against. So our whole mind state with this presidency should have been building up for the next 4 years. Who do we actually want to see a president? When they said he was only going to do 4 years, then we should have been making sure that if we wanted Kamala to be the president, that people were supposed to get behind Kamala. We supposed to demand that she had more of a presence. We supposed
more
to
of a presence.
we supposed to demand that she did things that led to people to believe that she was prepared to be the president. Right? People see right now, like you see her talking here and there, and she's very smart. But since she's been vice president, she has not been vocal. She has not been. She hasn't been. I mean, she hasn't been.
Doesn't get the same time.
Exactly. She doesn't get. She doesn't have the presence, right?
That's true.
She doesn't have the presence that she once had, and she doesn't, and she's not speaking in a manner in which she once spoke. Because now, as the vice president, you have to speak.
Be careful.
You have to be a lot more careful. So
right, because she used to be like Joe Biden, saying she used to talk stuff about the president.
She was very vocal. So a lot of people don't have faith in it. The system, the structure that we have right now, people don't have faith in. And that's why I said we need something different. We were supposed to go from state to state and build up our network and build up what we wanted to see in our next president, what we wanted, exactly what we wanted, right? And we were supposed to find that candidate that, that embodied everything that we wanted. Or force.
No candidate really embodies everything.
It's not, but I'm saying that embodied the most we have, because we understood. Now we got a shit show. You know what I'm saying? It's literally a shit show.
And everybody is admitting that now.
Yeah.
Which before people wouldn't say we have a shit show. Yeah, now they're like, it's really kind of messed up.
It's more than messed up. It's actually horrible, because when you look at what you have, like you said, we have to choose between, genocide, and what's going on in Gaza. We have to choose between that, and then we have to choose between a fascist dictator who's pretty much has saying that he's going to get in office and rewrite the Constitution. So it benefits him that he's pretty much above the law and put police above the law. So this is what we're faced with. These are, what we have to sit here and say, I got to choose.
I got to contend with these two things.
But
I know one thing, Donald Trump, if I have anything to do with it, he can't be the president of the United States. Not for me. For my position, I'm making it very clear. I've struggled. I have cried. It hurts a lot that we're in this situation that we're in. And I see that now the rest of the world is coming to the place where we were, because we were saying that. The same stuff about Biden, us not wanting Joe Biden to continue on and become president. We were saying all of that, and people were like, how can y'all do this? Mm-hmm. you gonna mess around and make Donald Trump the president. Y'all are being traitors basically to our community because you so worried about a war that's happening over there. And now we're watching, because again, as Senator Nina Turner said, what happens over there happens over here. So if you're taking our money and you're invested in a war it's not even a war, an assault that is happening over there, and then not doing what needs to be done for the people over here, that is where the connection is made. And we have been sounding the alarm. We are always ahead of our time. because we were always calling out the state of Israel. We were always doing that and been punished greatly for talking about the occupation that we know is happening there in Gaza, because we were there, and in the West Bank, and what's happening to the Palestinian people. But we were punished greatly for that. And now the rest of the world, people you would never even imagine, are saying the same thing because they can see it now that it's on mainstream media playing out right before our eyes, and of course on your cell phone. And it's the same thing with Joe Biden before the war, but certainly since October 7th, we have been saying he is not the right person to lead us through something like this, because yes, he has an allegiance to Israel. He has an allegiance to Jewish constituents that need safety as well. And we haven't argued that Jewish people need safety. We have not argued that. What we've argued is that safety comes from everybody being safe, not just one group of people. And his commitment and his Zionism and all the things that he said, we always knew that it was going to lead us to this place. And now here we are with age plus the support for genocide coming together, and it's destructive, it's dangerous, and I just don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that I've made a very conscious decision within myself that I cannot allow, for my granddaughter's benefit, for my granddaughter's benefit, Trump cannot be the president of the United States of America. Where we go from there, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the convention will be broken and somehow a leader will emerge. Of course, they still probably will support genocide, which is horrible. But even the Muslim community is saying if Joe Biden steps aside, they're ready to get in line. That's literally what that is literally what some Muslim organizations have been putting out there. We ready to get in line, but not behind Joe Biden. I mean, it's a mess.
There it is.
All right, look, well, we should get into our guests. I'm excited about these two beautiful young ladies who are joining us today. They're doing something really, really incredible.
Yes,
and
my
we want to
childhood
bring
friend.
it to you. All right, so new friends to me, friends of yours.
Yes,
for,
for years,
sometime.
Since kids.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I've been blown away by the experience where you asked me to accompany you to a program with these beautiful women, and learning more about what is happening with this program that they have. I wonder where in the world was it when I was like cutting school. I needed somebody to come get me and bring me to class.
That's right.
And help me with so many of the challenges, especially when I got pregnant. I mean, the story goes on. And so I'm really, really excited to have here these two powerful, powerful Black women, Tiffany Law and Tawana Butler-Bats. And they have a program called it is a business called Learning and Educational Solutions, Inc., which is LES. And I think for the purpose of folks really understanding what you all do, it's better for you to talk about it so that our audience can really understand what learning and educational solutions is and what powerful work you all do in the community.
Well, Learning and Educational Solutions, Inc. started off to solve the dropout rates throughout New York City, and then we extended it to solve the dropout rates across the world. One student, one school, one community at a time. So when we started doing it originally, we started off from one program we had, which was called our Roads program, which was Removing Obstacles and Achieving Dreams. It's Road to Graduation. Students who were struggling to come to school and they were about to graduate, but something was going on and the schools just did not have the capacity to figure out what was going on with them. So they would just fail them and they won't graduate, and then you never hear about the student. So when I tested the pilot, it was just about me seeing what was hindering these students. I got my own child together. It was my personal experience.
Wow.
And I asked the Department of Education, what can you do to help me? Like, I need an educational crisis management team. And they laughed and said, there's no such thing. Did you make that up? They was like, we don't even have the capacity for that. So I said, you know what, with my credentials, after I get my child on point, I will definitely be an advocate for other parents going through what I'm going through. So that's what I did. a principal gave me an opportunity. She said, I have some students. They are not going to graduate. I don't know what's going on with them. She said, I'm going to give you these students. If you can help them by any means necessary, let me know, and then we'll be on to something. And what I did was I worked with each individual student, and I made a lot of discoveries. Some students wasn't coming to school because they were homeless. Some students was pregnant and needed a babysitter. Some students just didn't feel like coming to school because they had some drama or something in the school and they didn't feel like, they were getting the attention they needed. Some were in gang-related activities. The list goes on. So what I did was what we call our roads removing obstacles and achieving dreams. I worked with each one of their families because I had to connect the school with the family, and I worked with them. I mean, I had parents who was like, if you could give me a Section 8 listing with some apartments, and then you could focus on my child, that would be great. And that's what I did. I did whatever I had to do to bring that student back to school. Some students couldn't graduate from the school they was in because they couldn't read or they had other challenges. Social and emotional factors played a role. I had to figure out what it was. And then I partnered with transfer schools that had great programs, accelerated courses. And I went with the family to the interviews, helped them get into the school. And next thing you know, every last one of those students graduated. If they didn't graduate from her school, they graduated from a school.
Wherever.
And then that's when we were like, oh, we got something big here. This is what's needed. And then city council got wind of it, and they say, hey, wonder what you could do with a team. And then that's when I started to panic. And then here comes Tiffany.
How long did you been doing this? When did it start?
So it started in 2016. I even did it before I had the name. Maybe it was like towards the beginning of 2017 that I said, LES, I think that sounds good. But yes, it started around that time. And then after the year of doing good, because we were bringing this particular school came from one point to the next. Everybody wanted to know, like, how could you be a school on a watch list and you just jump so fast? So it had to be explained how. So once it was explained that, the methods that was used to make this happen, they was like, let's see what you can do with a team. And then after that, it was about getting help with finance. And then that's why I always tell my story, because Tiffany came on board simply to just help me with the finance part. So when I have a team, I'll be able to manage it. And then I said, Tiffany, I want to pay you to do finance with me. And she said, oh, I don't know if you could afford me, but I can help you. I like what you got going on here. And next thing you know, she loved it so much. She came on board, and the sky was not the limit because there's footprints on the moon. She said, let's do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 schools. Now we're in over 25 schools. We're in all the boroughs. And we work directly with superintendents and the chancellor's office. And now it's just time for us to really expand to the point where everybody knows who's behind all of what's going on.
So Tiffany, you have a background in finance. What made you want to be a part of this education program?
Right. For me, obviously, just a little black girl from the Bronx. I always felt
Hybrid.
hybrid. I've been in finance for a long time, and specifically education operations on the university level since I was out of college. And I always felt like I'm over here managing $200 million budgets, right? But it's for causes that I just didn't believe in. But I had to feed my kids, right? So I'm gonna do this job. I'm gonna take these benefits. So when Tawana came to me with the idea, it just filled my soul. Like I just was like, where was this when my brothers needed it, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm one of 5, and I'm the only one that went to college and make it through. But the other 4 didn't. So it's like we needed some help. We needed this. My cousins needed this help. So I don't know. It just filled me, even though she couldn't afford to pay me. We did it anyway. I knew it was more than it mattered to me more than money did. So I was able to come in and kind of take Tawana's ideas, which were great, right, and turn this into a business. Honestly, that's what I was able to come in here and do. I mean, and I think it takes 2 people, like 2 different kinds of people. We are very different. Tawana is like ideas through the moon, and I'm like, how much that's gonna cost? How much is that gonna cost? How do we make that happen? How do we make it profitable, right? But how do we serve our communities? So yeah, that's how I started. We took that one program. She was calling it one program. I think I've expanded that to about 7 to 10 programs. That's not one program. She was giving that away for one, as one thing. And I said, girl, that's not one. This is 10 things. This is how we're gonna do this. I was able to digitize these things she was doing on paper. Tawana look grandma sometime. Notebook, yeah. She was using papers, and I said, ma'am, we got to be able to allow people to work from Zoom, allow people to work from Georgia, like wherever we can hire people from, but we need to digitize this. We need to make this computerized. So that's what I've been able to do, is to help expand LES and to honestly make it profitable, because we are doing great work, but now we thankfully are being paid to do it as well.
Yes.
That's a beautiful.
Yes.
We need y'all for our team.
And I would just like to add, also creating a team. I would go do our dropout prevention services by myself, and it was also about safety. So I would literally go to these students' homes, sit down with their parents, talk to them, and figure out a plan on how they can get back to a school and what they needed. But then Tiffany was like, okay, well, we got to be safe when we doing this. We got to get a team out there, 2 people, let's do this. Right. Because we don't know how everybody's house is. And I guess I was just I'm like, listen, passionate. Everybody's going to do what I say to do, because they know I love them and I'm going to make this happen. But I had to make sure. I mean, it's times I was running up the hill and heels from a dog. And she said, see, you can't be doing this.
No.
So,
the story is beautiful, and I want to hear more about just that, what it felt like for you to have another Black woman not there to take away, talk it down, tell you it can't work, but instead to invest in it. Before you get to that, though, would love to hear about your own child, because one of the things that I find interesting, and I'm the mother of a 25-year-old son, and my son obviously has his children. It's really hard sometimes to get your own child together while working with so many other people's children. So I find it interesting that you said first you had to focus on that. And you were successful?
Yes. So what happened was, it was 2 things I want to talk about. One, with my child, it was about me having social and emotional factors that played a role in my life. I was with her father from pretty much my teenage years to adulthood, and the transition was a lot for her. And with us bickering back and forth, everybody's thinking about themselves and not really what's happening with her. So it became a shock when she wasn't doing well in school. And I felt so horrible I felt like I neglected, her education, because it was like the focus was us tug-of-warring her. And I felt like had to be something in some way that I can get her back on track. And then I just assumed that there was schools that would be able to just say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to monitor her, handhold her through these classes. And then when she does have a little panic attack or a breakdown, we'll pull her out and see what's going on and see what we can do. And the reason why I thought that is because, let's go back to when I was younger. I messed up in school, and my mom put me in a transfer school. And I sat in that transfer school with my arms crossed, and I said, I'm only coming to school because you're making me. And my mother was like, well, it's okay. You still got to come to school. And the people did not judge me so much that they allowed me into their school, and I was on an honor roll, and it changed my life. So I was like, I got a chance. Do they still have these chances? Because now, fast forward years later, I'm going through this with my own child. So I just assumed the help that they sort of gave my mom with me, and it changed my life. I was the child who said I wasn't going back to school. Not only did I graduate, but I went to college, and then I told my mom, and I'm getting my master's, and I did. And she was like, the girl who don't want to go to school is going to get her bachelor's and master's, and I did it all. So I said, maybe, but the times have changed, and it just wasn't like that. Just like it wasn't like people back in the days. Remember when they'll come with the car and make you go to school and pick you up truancy? Yeah. So I was just taking it back, and they was like, we don't even do any of that. Yeah. So I was like, what? Like, so if
y'all got in Joe Clark mode.
Yeah. We did.
I do.
Okay.
4.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What's the age group?
10, 18, and 23.
Oh, okay. So you have big kids too. So you know all about what needs to be done. So talk about that as women, like how this came together, and and just what for you has been, sort of like the most heartwarming part of having this other black woman to help you expand? And I guess the same for you.
Having Tiffany come in and give and work with me, I feel it was a blessing. I gave my husband a hard time because I felt like I had someone that I was going to work with, and it just didn't work the way that I wanted it to, and I was so invested, and I needed someone that can believe in this like I did. You know what I mean? So when my husband introduced me to Tiffany and said, no, listen, she's about her business and she's very strategic. She's going to be able to break this all down for you. She's going to be able to help you. I was like, all right, But when she moved forward and started doing it and then telling me that you selling this program for this, when you should have 7, and started, getting into the logistics of things and the details, it was a great fit. It was a great fit. It worked, and we were able to expand so much so that we went on to a whole nother level. We became part of the 4% minorities. I think it's probably under 4% now that actually has an MTAC,
Which is what's the
a
impact?
multiple task award
New York
contract.
City.
Yeah, for New York City.
So right now, if you don't have that, you can only get one contract at a time.
You can get more than one contract at a time, but they cap you at 25K per school, right? Per program. And that's what we had for 5 years straight.
Yeah.
We were just hustling, trying to make that happen in multiple schools. But now, once you have that MTAC, you can charge whatever you want. A school can have all 10 of your programs. There's no ceiling anymore.
And what exactly are all the programs that you guys offer to the school?
So we have the Road to Graduation that Tawana talked about. We also have the Road to Alternative, which is like, if this program isn't working for you, right, let us find an alternative for you. So it's not really like we have so many different things. We do whatever is necessary. You might need an online school, right? In New York City, I don't know if you guys know that, but post-pandemic, they banned the online schools. So we had to be strategic, right? I do a lot of reading at night. I do a lot of reading of the chancellor's regulations, the mayor's initiatives, and I find loopholes in almost anything. So I found several loopholes to make these things work. So we have kids that are in online schools now, even though we don't have much support from the districts to do this.
Right.
But we just had our first graduate. I think I discovered this back in November. We had, in March, I think I started to enroll. I think I enrolled about 60 kids into the online school. It's very expensive also. This isn't free. Y'all, we
Right.
took the
So
money
we're
out of our
paying
pocket
for
to
it.
do this. But I wanted to pilot it. I wanted to see what we could do. And we just had our first graduate
Yes.
June 28th. This boy hadn't been in school for 2 years.
Wow.
Okay? He
And
finished
these are
this
generally
program.
black and brown
These
kids.
are black and brown children.
Yeah.
These are our children. And in 60 days, he got a high school diploma.
Yes, he did. A high school diploma.
Yeah, just so that's some of what we do. Again, we transfer to transfer schools depending on what you like. We might have kids who want to dance, who want to film make. We connect you with schools that are going to give you what you need, not just a school just to go to just because. We really want to see these kids be sustainable citizens, right? Do whatever it is that you want to do. We encourage them. What else?
We have our attendance program. We have schools that have very low attendance. So they hire the LES team to bring their students back to school because they can do well. They just need to come into the school. So a lot of times we go to the homes and discover they moved. They don't even live here anymore. So we do a lot of cohort cleaning up for the schools to where if the student is no longer there, they can come off the cohort. You know what I mean? They just need an address. So we do all of that. They call us investigators. We have our safe and secure hallways to where we have mentoring on the go. The Mentoring on the Go program is a major hit because it all started with to be in supportive of school safety. Just you guys didn't know this about me, but I used to be school safety for years. I transferred to become a cop, and then I was like, this is not for me. I took the teacher's test and became a teacher. So I had many different careers.
Oh, they all prepared
Yes,
you.
that led me into this. So I went back into school safety mode, and I discovered that school safety, they don't have them doing the things they used to have us doing. So with the mentoring, I noticed that the students wanted someone that looks like them, the auntie, the uncle that can relate to them. And we created that, and we were able to make sure that the mentoring on the go was getting to know the students in transition to class, making sure that Johnny, who's always late, you're not late because I'm walking you. This is how we're doing it. And it's so great to the point where they actually tell the principals will say, oh, the teacher's coming to you because, today about what happened.
What I love the most is that these are just like their big brothers and sisters. We're literally taking people out of the community and bringing them in.
Yes.
Like we have open houses in the community. We have people that say, "Oh, I haven't worked before. Oh, I don't know if I have the tools." It's like we give you the tools. You do. If you have a passion, if you want to help kids, we'll help you get to that next
Figure
level.
it out. Right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, of course, there's some hindrances with New York City that we tend to face because again, if you have ever been convicted of a crime, you can't work in New York City.
Ever been convicted?
Ever been convicted, even if you had a misdemeanor. So we have to then deal with that. So it's an investigative side. On the other hand, where I have to write these letters and get these people clear, which takes a really long time. So just like it feels like, I mean, we do our best, but there's several like hindrances I think within the system that could be fixed.
I'm just so proud of Tiffany. Like just knowing her since she was like in elementary school, like 4 and 5 years old. Like we went to the same, like knowing her growing up and just seeing her grow into this. This is just so dope.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the entire program to me is precisely what we need, and one of the reasons why we wanted to have you all on the show so quickly after visiting the graduation ceremony is that around the country we're in a time where everybody is trying to figure out what do we do while we're under attack. Right? Like we as Black people, as Black and brown and vulnerable communities, even white communities, are suffering and are at the cross section of real attacks against our education, attacks against our health, everything, our economics, everything. And models that people can use in their particular cities, that will help to keep afloat. And this has happened throughout history. If you think back through history, there have always been times when there was a recession and people had to figure out how to feed themselves or how to travel and spend less money to get to work. Or you've always had to have models pop up that would give folks hope that we can do it. And I think LES is one of those models. I really, truly think that. And so talk about what does it take on the financial side to keep a program like this going? It feels like it's expensive.
It's very expensive.
Extremely expensive.
It's very expensive because we don't have just one person, right, on the ground. For one program, like we said, we have the team that's out. They have to be out in a duo. That was something that we had to implement. 2 people at a time. We also have to have attendance people who are like analysts. They sit behind a computer, but they're calling constantly. We're literally searching for these kids. We find kids in Texas. We find kids in
Yemen.
Alabama. We find kids in
They're
Africa.
supposed to be here.
They're supposed to be here.
And they went wherever.
Yeah, so that's also helping to decrease that dropout
What's
rate.
some of the worst stories that you found? Like, give me a story of something that you all had to work through that was really, really challenging.
So a lot of the families during the pandemic did not know how to work the Google Classrooms. So we had to put our team in place to make sure that they went to some of the houses. Could you imagine they had to suit up and do all types of Zooms to help families? We discovered a lot of kids were raised by their grandparents. So the grandparents was like, on the Tyler Perry, I don't know about that algebra. What you talking about? So we had to figure it out to help them. And I remember this one specific story that there was a student who was pretty much an A student, and the school called us and said he was not coming to school. They don't know what was going on. And we was like, we got to find him. So I remember I didn't have a partner to go with me in the field at that time, and Tiffany was busy doing a lot of the other stuff with the staff behind the scenes. So I made my husband go with me, and we put on our outfits.
You had a partner.
Yeah,
then.
he helped me. We geared up, and he said, put your mask on. We put our mask on. We put everything we needed to. And we went to the house, and we asked him what happened. And he said, my mother lost her jobs during the pandemic, and I have to help her. And I have to help her some way. And then I was like, okay, where's your mom? The mom came down. She was crying. And I said, Mom, he only has a few more months to go. I said, what is it we need to do to help? Because he has a promising career. And at this particular time, he was up for internship with BMW and Mercedes-Benz. because he's a mechanic. He grew up being a mechanic and fixing cars with his grandfather. So the mom was like, I don't know. I'm just, I don't want him to quit school. He's just depressed here with me. So I said, the first things first, do you have all your basic necessities? And she said she didn't have really a lot. So my husband and I, we took a list. What do you need? We went and we got the list of stuff.
Expensive.
And we went and bought everything for her. And then Tiffany was like, yeah, we could swing a couple of dollars too. Let's give them something. Try to hold them over because he's graduating. And that's what we did. We came back and they cried and they hugged us. And I said, listen, I need you to go and log on. He logged on to school. And he graduated. I mean, he was a successful graduate. And I think that was a great story.
A beautiful
because
story.
we had to get up no matter what. We didn't even care. Everybody was scared in the house. Like, we was like, no, we got to go there.
I love this because it intercepts the school to prison pipeline, right? It completely gives our kids an opportunity, because I remember when I went to school in Martin Luther King, I remember that there was a day that all the kids that didn't go to school, they just kicked you out the school. Like
That's how it is. Yep.
Literally, it was one day, like you be going and we be having fun, and the next thing you know, they just made a big announcement and told you to come to the office and said you're no longer in this school no more, and they sent you to one of those schools that nobody went to.
Right.
Like it was like 50 or 60 of my friends just completely got kicked out of the school. So when you look at
Wow.
programs like this,
Yeah.
and you see that these opportunities, it could have saved a lot of them. A lot of them not here, a lot of them in prison. You know what I'm saying? Because they just threw them out in the street, and there was nobody there that really cared enough. So when I look
Right.
at y'all program, it's really going to make real change.
Right. And the kids that come from prison, we get them. Soon as and when we find out that there's a student that may have gotten locked up, we tell the school, please keep us posted. And then we reach out to the family. Let us know. Especially if it's a student that we know have a couple of months. We keep them on our list, and then we revisit it again, and as soon as they get out, we're right there to get them back acclimated with a school and what's going on. Now, the school that they were in may not work for them, but we find a school, and sometimes you have kids, we have kids we worked with, we had to meet them where they were, meaning at their house. Like, they were not trying to come out for whatever reason or something that happened.
Right.
So we had to send a tutor to the home, and we was like, help us get this work. Now, Tiffany find loopholes, and that's the problem. When we find those loopholes all the time, the Department of Education seems to forget that they have that loophole. They're like, where did you find this? Who said, like, we have to use this? And we're like really pressing them like, you said this, you created this. We just went to a press release recently where one of the loopholes we found that they said they were rescinding and not using, which is the online school. They just announced that they're going to do it. So we were very confused.
Well, because they
Yeah.
listen, people watch you.
Yeah, they do.
You don't think
Yeah,
that
they
they do, but they watch you and they watch your work, and then they start saying they want to implement things that you're doing.
Yes.
Do you all have a relationship at all with the chancellor, directly, or?
I think it's indirectly. We work with Project Pivot, which is the chancellor's initiative. So we work with his team, which are some great 10 black men who are like on the ground with us every day. But so it's an indirect relationship. But I think because we do have a black mayor and a black chancellor, I think they need to know about this.
Absolutely.
They need to definitely invest in this because what I find is the most horrible thing is that these programs, that this program is great, right? But there's not a lot of programs that you can give for these teenage students. It's kind of like they want to help them until they get to be about 13-ish. And then when you get to high school, there's nothing.
Right.
There are no programs for them. Why not? These are tomorrow's leaders. Why are we not investing in them? Why are we they're just like letting them drop out. I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of principals that'll give us a list and they would be like, oh, here, work with these 5. That's another thing that started when I got here. They were like, these 7 or these 5. And Tawana's like, yes, great. And I had to dissect that and say, let me see your data. So I require the data now. I want to see how many kids on this that are enrolled in this school are not coming to school.
Yeah, don't
and I
just
want to
give
know why.
me 5.
Don't give me your 7 because
Yeah.
what happened to the other? And I always find other
17,
kids. They're
right.
like, oh, he doesn't come. Oh, he's just all these excuses. And I'm like, no. In order to work with us, you have to give me all 14 of them.
That's the one I want.
I
mean, that's how we
exactly.
when we do our organizing work in communities around the nation, we always are like, okay, where you said they shooting and killing over there, take us over there, drop us off, and we'll see. We gonna work with our own people, and we have to find the people who, because if there is violence or some sign of like a real what's the word I'm looking for? If there's violence or if a community seems like it's really, really like a stressed, depressed neighborhood, we know there's a lot of promise there because that means that people are hurting. So we don't look at violence as it's just criminals. We look at violence as somebody's in pain, and therefore they need the resources. We actually should be focusing on that. It's funny that so many elected officials and otherwise is one of the kind of the challenges that I had with Bernie Sanders, my son. That was his candidate. It wasn't mine.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't my candidate.
I said no. I said yes, it was mine.
Elizabeth Warren was my candidate. But one of the issues that I had with Bernie was this idea that if we start at the bottom, like if, we just like kind of like, what do they say? All rise and tides raises all ships or something like that. So that's cool. That sounds great. But he would never identify who was at the bottom by saying black folks, because we are the ones that no matter how you could take the data, flip it upside down, shake it out, iron it, it's always going to come back that our communities are the ones that are suffering the most in every single category. And so I do believe that strategy can work, but then that means that you have to be able to name our people,
You have to be able to be one of our people.
Well, that's a
name our
fact
people.
too.
Yeah.
That's a fact too. And I only bring that up because, I feel like then I need to talk to Pookie, not just Pookie, because Pookie might just be a nickname for Robert, who has a good job, who's doing. I'm talking about Pookie's Pookie
From the block, Pookie.
Right, right. Who might not even have a house. He's living from house to house to other. That's where we have to go, and that's what my son does every day: is work with the ones that I see them, and I'm like, "Woo, this is a tough group." We had Until Freedom run programs in Newark. And I was watching the kids the other day and then listening to what the instructors were saying. And they were like, they started looking for him, those kids, those same kids that would have seen him coming before or probably did, like, I'm not doing this or, whatever. But then because he was consistent, they were like, well, where's he at? Like,
that's how it is.
Young boys, they are able to see you, right? Because I remember being a young boy, and that's why I mentor from that position. I don't mentor from where I am. I mentor from where I was. And what would it have taken for me to identify with somebody or trust somebody or change the direction that I was going to for somebody, right? It would have to be consistency. It would have to be that you earn respect. It would have to be honesty. It would have to be that I sense all of those things in you, right? So that's how I try to mentor, and I think this is what this program is. Like when I listen to you, it's not you didn't say, we try to figure out how to make some money. No, right. you seen a necessity out of something that you actually were dealing with and said, people really need these things, right? And then y'all connected those dots and said, well, while we doing this, we still have to survive, and we got to make sure, and while we survive, and we got to be able to provide for the people that we helping, because a lot of these things are financial. I say all the time, poverty is violence, and when we look at we're dealing with levels of violence on so many different levels. It's not just physical violence. It's emotional. It's it's health. All of these things. So when you start tearing back the layers and you talking to these parents, you realize like, damn, it's deeper than just the kid don't want to go to school. Like it's way deeper. Because I remember when I wasn't going. I remember the things that was going on in my house.
Right.
I was a top student. And then the things that was going on in my house stopped me from going to school. I had to focus on, I got to survive. Like, it's just me and my sister. What do I got to do? How, so it takes you out of it. And if I'd have had somebody that came and gave me resources and helped my mother go through what she had to go through, like, there's no telling where I would have been. I wanted to be the president. I wanted to be one of the best lawyers. Like, I was one of the best mock attorneys in my school. Like when we had those mock trials at King, I was the what? Yeah, she went to King. So I'm saying, like, I really was one of the best at those. Then I went to John Jay and I was doing mock trials and writing up closing arguments. My teachers was like, yo, it's nobody better than you at this. But life was calling. The things that was going on in my household and me trying to survive, I was like, I can't even get to school no more.
And that's what we go through with the students and their families. A lot of times they will say things like, you don't know what I'm going through. So because I always like to say every single program we have of LES, I've actually done it myself. So I love when they tell me that. because I know I always tell them I have personal experience when they go, oh, you don't know, it's hard to have a child that's this. I'm like, what? I tell them my story. Or the children always say to me, you don't know how it feels when you go to a new school. I tell them my story. And when I tell them my story about what happened when I went to that new high school, they say, and now you work for LES, miss. I say, now I own LES. They say, sign me up.
Oh, man. That
So
sounds
it's always
good.
a story that I'm telling them, and they're like, wow, oh, this happened? Because they want to know that you know. You're not just talking.
We make sure that we hire genuine people who want to be a part of this cause. I mean, you can have all the degrees in the world, and
Yeah.
we're like, we've turned away so many people, and I'm like, they just don't fit. Or
Right.
Tawana's like, they don't fit. We want
So
real
you
people.
two have to agree on the person.
We agree on people. Yeah, we do.
that's deep.
Because we look for different things, and we just want to make sure that people are out here who understand the mission and who are here not just to get paid, because we understand everybody has to be paid, but really want to help these kids.
Do y'all hire family members?
Oh,
We have.
yes.
Did it work?
Sometimes it does,
Sometimes it doesn't. It's harder, obviously, with your family members because they
Right.
can't separate the fact that, to be honest, our husbands work for the company.
Well, that's that.
Right.
They're invested.
They invested, but they get on our nerves too.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah, but
right?
that's different
It's
from
a different, but you have to,
stealing
yeah,
or-
but you got to go lay down with him tonight, and you're like, I just had to tell you to go do this, and I know you didn't like it, but let's separate it. So it gets hard. My sister is one of the people who's been with us since day one, right? She's been a loyal employee. I don't do day to day with her on purpose, so we also make sure that we're not directly involved with our family. Tawana takes on her more, but she's been amazing, right? And I think
Yes.
just for us, our mother came from public service and worked for Social Security and HRA her whole life, right? My mother she worked at our local community center, right? My mother was everybody's mom.
That's right.
Just our growing up. So I think it's just natural for us to feel like this is where we belong.
And I forgot to mention, I got to shout out my Queens. Okay, so I was raised in South Jamaica, Queens by way of Queensbridge Projects.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
lot of
you know,
people
People
from
out
there.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people out there. So what do you need? How can people help? And where can they find you?
I think we need awareness. We just want people to know what LES is. We need people like you guys who allow us on your platforms. I know Mike's talked to me about just like joining.
we need ambassadors.
I want ambassadors in every borough. Like, so Mike, so you help my ambassador for the Bronx. I got Cameron reached out to me the other day. He wants to be the ambassador for Harlem, right? He's
Wonderful.
excited
Shout
about
out to
doing a
Cam.
back to school event with us immediately. Like, he wants to do it this summer. I have Jadakiss reached out. He wants to do Yonkers. He's like, I know y'all do New York City, but I'm like, we do wherever. We got people reaching out in Philly.
That's right.
My friend, one of my best friends lives in Philly, so she has a hair salon, so she has a lot of like teachers and principals who have been reaching out. So we definitely want to make it there, but I think our goal right now is to conquer New York. We want to get ambassadors for all of the boroughs. We want to get the chancellor's ear, the mayor's ear.
Well,
wanna
we can
make
work
this,
on that.
Yeah,
We
we
can
want
definitely
to.
get that
Yeah,
done.
we're working on RFPs this summer. I don't know if you guys know what those are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to really get the
Stressful.
mayor's ear, meaning that I've been going to a lot of we're MWBE, right? So I've been going to the MWBE events they have, and I see them all. I mean, it's times where the chancellor have seen me, and he's telling the mayor, come over here. I want you to hear what they have going. But then they get so busy after they hear it, and then they give you all these numbers and say, let's set up meetings.
And it doesn't happen.
Don't we
dealt
know?
with that.
And they
dealt
send
with
other
that.
people.
And then they
right?
send other people, and then it's like, but they don't realize that the numbers that they're getting is because of people like us. We find hundreds of students who have dropped out of school and bring them back in. They're not just going back.
Well, listen.
We're getting them.
I'm going to help with. Specifically, me and Tamika have a little bit of connections here and there that we might be able to do something. So I really want what y'all do to be implemented in every school. Like, this is really important,
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I just want to commend y'all for the work that you do.
you so much.
It's amazing, and it started out of necessity. It started out of you seeing what was missing, and that's what I tell these kids all the time. If you want to do something, find out what's missing. When you see that something is missing, fill that void. And this is a void that definitely needs to be filled, especially in our community. So I want to commend y'all and thank y'all for joining us. Tell them where to find y'all at.
Email us at info@lesinc.org, or you can go to www.lesinc.org.
I'm at just Tiffany 25. And you are.
And I am Coco Bats, but I would rather them go to.
Hey, let me follow that page.
Please
You got
follow
close
learning
friends
_educational _solutions and Twitter, which is learning edu.
Thank y'all so
Thank
much.
y'all.
Thank you for having
Appreciate
us.
Thank
We
you so much for
appreciate you.
having
Keep up
us.
the good
Yes,
work.
yes.
Whatever we could do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
I like Elias.
I love Elias,
I like
man.
both young ladies. I'm so grateful to you for introducing me to them. I always feel so excited when I know I could do something to help somebody. Like,
Yeah,
I
man.
get really like,
It's dope. You know what? As soon as I heard the program, and then I know, like I said, I know Tiffany since she was a baby, like literally, and just knowing how she's always been focused, been driven. She was the girl that was never into none of the bull stuff, always smart and all of that. And just when I heard her name involved, and I'm like, oh, we got to pay attention to this, you know. And her husband is my friend. Shout out to JT. So these is like brothers and sisters to me. So just. And then seeing that what they're doing, it's just amazing, man. So
yeah, no,
we need
I'm
this.
proud
We
of them.
definitely need this kind of program. This is what I've been talking about when we talk about community, doing things for the community and community, like policing the community, taking care of the community, entrepreneurship, educating the community. That's what it is. Is they've created an ecosystem that each level of education they are able to do something for. You know, when it's public safety, you know,
Yeah, I
getting the
was gonna
kids
say,
back.
I don't use the word policing in our community. It's public safety.
Well, it's public. Okay, I'll change the word. You know, public safety in our community.
Yeah,
So
no, I love it. I think that as you know, the more that we help them to get the awareness out there, I think that they can go. That other people in other states can really look at their model, and people are already doing it.
it
You
was
know,
done.
people are
We
already
just
doing it.
taking back. They took. This is why I had this conversation. Shout out to me, Adams, that we had because I know that it was there. Like me and her were talking about. There was a program in our community called the Mosaic, in which they had every level. They had entertainment, they had mentorship, they had sports, they had education, they had after school programs where the kids there were daycare centers. Everything that the community needed was in there, and they hired everybody from the community
To work
so
in there.
to work
Yeah.
in there. So it was a beautiful thing, and then they just cut the funding, and now it's not even it's a shell of what it once was.
Well, I'm not even thinking so much about the programs. I think the programs are important, and you have programs all around the country. Specifically, their road, removing obstacles, achieving dreams. That is what I'm talking about. The idea that they literally go find a kid. They said they found kids in Yemen, in Africa, in probably in the school building, right? And then you find out that these kids have a variety of problems or issues they're dealing with, their family members, and now here they are working to try to solve problems so that the young person can get back in school. We know of a few programs like that. I know certainly Erica Ford at Life Camp. That's something that they figured out through years and years of research that you can't even help the child until you help the mother. You can't help the mother and not the father. You can't help the mother and father and the grandmother is living there and doesn't have the medical needs that they may have or other children in the home. So incarceration can become an issue. So there's so many barriers. And I think what they're doing is something that if you are a person who's in, I don't know, Alabama right now, and you're like, wow, the dropout rate is so high because, the stats are in New York that since the pandemic, there's a real struggle to get young Black boys to go back to school. And so if you're in Alabama, you're in North Carolina, you're in Wisconsin, you're in Michigan, you're wherever, and you realize that that's an issue, then perhaps looking at LES and the model and then using your own spice because every local community has its own issues. Some place, New York, is buildings. So we have a different strategy. Some places it's houses. Some places trailer parks. I mean, everywhere has something different. I think LES and what they're doing is brilliant.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant.
For sure.
I appreciate them. Love them. That brings me to my I don't get it. We're talking about children and we're talking about parents. LeBron James, who is arguably to many the GOAT, greatest of all time basketball. Not really my GOAT, but he's up there. He's in the top 5 to me. His son, Bronny James, just got drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers, and there is this big uproar. Oh, he doesn't deserve it. There's people that deserve that spot. They just got him there because it's LeBron's son and this and that. And I say that's right. Right. And that's what they should
So
like.
you don't think he deserves it?
No, I think he deserves it, but I think that he's LeBron's son, and that's why he got on the team, because LeBron said, "I want my son to play with me." And LeBron,
But what if he didn't? What if he just was good?
no, he is good. You know what I'm saying? He's not no better than anybody, no worse than at 50. He went at 55, the 55th pick. Like that's like barely making the team. But the fact is that
that's
people,
what he was. That's the level. That
yeah, that's what, and the thing was,
I thought
he was
like
a McDonald All-American. He was at the topest level, in basketball, and then he got an injury in which he had a heart injury,
right,
in which LeBron didn't even know if his son was going to survive, let alone play basketball. And to ignore what he did to rehab himself, to work himself back in a position to be able to play on an NBA team, to ignore that, just that in itself, like, forget everything else. The fact that you were on to the point where you thought you would probably never play basketball again, and you defied that, you worked hard, you practiced, you exercised, you did everything necessary. Then you went to those combines and you impressed those people, and people seeing you played hard, you did all those things. What else should a father do, right? If I tell my son all the time, if you want me to help you, just show me the initiative. Because if you show me that you want it like that, and I heard LeBron James said he asked his son, what do you want with this? Like, what do you want to do in NBA? He said, I want to play in the pros. That's what I want. And he said that, and then he showed me that. So as a father, that's what you're supposed to do for your kids. When they put the work in, you're supposed to be able to, if you are in a position to make things easier after they put the work in and put them in the doors to where when they get in there, now it's up to you. I can get you in the door. You know what I'm saying? You showed me that you're willing to do it, and I'm willing to put my name, my everything on the line because you worked hard enough. That's what we supposed to do as parents. I heard Steven Jackson, shout out to Steven Jackson, he said black privilege. I love it. We put yourself in a position, because that's what's been happening in these leagues for years. The white
it's
people.
Not just the leagues. It's
just everywhere.
Corporate,
everywhere.
Police department, the elected officials passing down a seat to their child, corporate leaders, their kid or their nephew or someone becomes the new CEO once they get, to a certain point. Yeah. And so I personally don't think it's that big of a deal.
It's not that big.
And you know why I don't think it's that big of a deal? Because you and like some of y'all on social media that done got upset about it are the only people that's talking about it around me. Around me, they saying,
around you, but I'm saying, but if you go through the sports world, they got people, analysts on on ESPN, all the sports world. You got people.
They can't get them off the team.
They can't. No, they ain't gonna get them nowhere. Yeah. And shout out to LeBron. Shout out to Bronny James. And and I hope this right here gives us the understanding of what we should be doing. Right? We should be creating generations, setting up our own foundations, give everybody else a chance. But I'm not going to act like if my son or my family member is qualified to do a job, just as qualified as somebody else, that I'm not going to give them that opportunity. And that's how we create generational wealth. If we don't own nothing.
Well, but they need to be talented.
They do need to be talented, because the thing is, you can only get them somewhere. Talent the rest of that got to take them somewhere. Right? I can get you to the interview. I can get you to tryout, but your skill is going to get you in the game. Mm-hmm. If Bronny James don't perform, they talk about it now. They talking about what's his name? Giannis. Giannis' brother's on the team. He don't play at all, but he get paid a check. And for 5 or 6 years, however long he been on that team, his brother got a check because he made sure that his brother got a check. Yeah. In order for me to sign, you gonna sign my brother.
Well, I'm not against making sure your family members and other people, friends or whomever, or just someone you met, that they are taken care of. But I do think that the person should be qualified for the job, or at least on a trajectory to become qualified. Because I do believe, I don't think that people should be surpassed that have skills, mm-hmm. so that you can make a space for your lazy nephew or your problematic daughter That
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. They need to have a benefit. So like you said, even if he's not playing, perhaps there's something that he's doing behind the scenes. I don't know what that. I mean, I'm assuming that
what
because
he does is
the
he
team has people that's not,
yeah,
that
he
don't
helps
really
his
play.
brother up. He gets on. He has this energy that comes out whenever he's in the huddle. You see him; he's more energetic, and that provides something for the team.
Right.
People need that. They want that. So LeBron,
They have that on all teams, like people that don't play.
yeah,
but their job is like,
it's certain people on the team that you don't like. They rally around inside the locker rooms. They're the voice in the locker rooms. He might be the best practice player. You know, he out there fouling hard. You know, he gonna bring everything. So every team has someone that other people might not think is good enough, but they provide something for the team.
yeah. But
You
I
know what
don't.
I'm saying?
I've been on teams before where children or family member or associates have been problematic. You know,
Yeah.
messy and problematic, and then
Nah, we don't want those.
they're there because it's a part of like your contract or it's a part of the relationship that you have with the boss. That's problematic, and I never wanted that. In fact, I'm against. As we just finished talking to these two sisters about hiring family members, I have been against having people who work for me. Who people who are in my family work for me and or suggesting them for other jobs. It's not so much against, but very reluctant, because everybody that walks in the door with my name on them, I want my name to be held just the same way that I try to perform in jobs. And I'm not saying that I've always done the great jobs. There's been some places I'm like, wow, I remember that. I was going through man problems, or my kid didn't really have the right child care, or baby father died, or this happened, or I was just outside. And I know I didn't really, really, really focus on that opportunity the way that I should have. We all have to be able to admit that. But I also know that whoever helps me get it, I become an extension of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should not be asking people to hook us up.
Yeah, I don't want the one to hook up. If you come to me and you got you have the right requirements, if you got the resume and it shows that you can do something, and I'm able to utilize a resource that I have, or I know somebody that can put you in a position that you can apply the skill set that you have, to the fullest of your ability, and I know that you're going to maximize on that situation, then by all means, that's what we have related. They say all the time, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
And
that's a fact.
That's a fact. That's just
if
the
we
world
don't
we
help
live
our
in.
own, like who's gonna do it?
Ain't nobody else gonna help us, man.
That's true.
And with that said, brings us to the end of another beautiful episode. Shout out to Tawana and Tiffany from LES. The work they're doing is amazing. Make sure you follow them. Mayor, we need to make sure that this is everywhere. We got to make sure we get these people in. This is what it is. This is what I was talking about right here. Make sure that you hit us up, DM us, give us the information at TMI_show. Hit us up, DM us, let us know what you like, what you don't like. Give us some people you want us to interview. Give us some shows. Let us know some topics. We want to hear from you. Right. We appreciate you for continuing to make us the #1 show in the world, the best show in the world. TMI, we doing our thing. TMI. And with that said, I'm not going to always be right. Tamika D. Mallory is not going to always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
That's how we own it. That's how we own it. That's how we own it.
Check out the video version of TMI
every single Wednesday on iWoman.tv.
That's how we own it.